We're live on YouTube.
Let's make sure, Lucille, everybody's
We're
here.
now live on YouTube.
Okay, let's wait. Lucille, everybody's ready? Let's give her a second. I think she was waiting for a few folks, if I'm right.
We're still waiting on two people. Apologies.
Morning. Our president is muted.
I'm not muted now, right? Good.
We're live on the website. We're ready to go.
I think our folks are here. I think they're just signed in under my name three times.
It happens to the best of us.
Dorian, Nikhil, Rashid. Okay, I
Just
see
use the
Nikhil.
feature to rename yourselves. That would be great. Thank you.
We're ready. Well, I'll begin. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank all the district managers and staff who are on the call today. And of course, before we begin, just want to lift up all of those in Brooklyn in prayer, and Sunset Park in particular, with the incident that's happened there this morning. So just want to keep those folks in prayer. This morning, we are pleased to be joined by the MTA's bus network redesign in Livon, New York. The cabinet will first receive a presentation from the MTA's Queens Bus Network redesign. The Queens Bus Network redesign is the largest bus network redesign effort in the country, with over 100 routes and serving an average everyday ridership of approximately 800,000 folks. The redesign is part of the MTA's larger effort to holistically modernize New York City's bus network and improve bus service borough by borough. The new draft plan, which is driven by customer feedback, was released on March 29, 2022. This presentation will provide an overview of the new draft plan for the Queens Bus Network. I would like to welcome Dorian, Rashid, Lucille, and Danny to lead this discussion on behalf of the MTA. And I just want to thank them for all of the work that they've done to really come up with a better draft plan. One thing I said early on last year, or 2 years ago when this plan was announced, was that this was the one plan that united every single part of the borough to oppose something. But it wasn't really just about opposition. It was really about the well-being of our bus network and ensuring that our seniors and others can get around, our people who are most vulnerable, those disconnected, those disabled. And I do want to thank the MTA for taking that feedback seriously, and it showed in the second draft. By no means am I saying it's perfect. I'm sure there'll be some other requests to do some more tweaks, but I just want to seriously thank them for what they've done. And we ought to always recognize when our government partners take feedback seriously and come back with something even better. So I just want to start with that, and I want to thank each and every one of you, all of our district managers, for being here. With that being said, I think I'm passing this over to Lucille.
So thank you so much, Borough President. Good to see everybody. Good morning. My name is Lucille Songhai. I am Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations. I have the pleasure of getting to work with a lot of the district managers out here in Queens. So we thought that this would be a really good opportunity for us to go through the bus network redesign plan as it stands now in our new draft proposals. We are going to truncate our presentation, understanding that you all have Livon, New York presenting after us. But we will go through sort of the main presentation that we're going to be presenting to all communities that we're in front of. And then we are going to launch into questions and to, answer any questions that folks have. We have a series of upcoming digital public workshops that we're going to be sending around and asking folks to help us promote. We made sure to make sure that those meetings are not conflicting with your full board or transportation committee meetings, and they run through June 2nd. And I just want to add that although we will be sort of doing these first 14 digital public workshops, we don't have a time frame for outreach. We will continue to meet and continue to talk with riders and with customers and with stakeholders such as yourself throughout this process. So we want to give assurances to that. I want to pass this now over to Nikhil and to Rashid, who will be giving our overview presentation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucille. Let me just share my screen. Let me know once you can see it.
We can see it.
Okay. All right, should be full screen now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll try to get through this. There are a decent amount of slides. So the Queens Bus Network redesign is part of MTA's larger effort to modernize New York City's bus network. It is the largest bus network redesign effort in the country, with over 100 routes and serving an average weekday ridership of approximately 800,000 customers. This presentation will provide an overview of the new draft plan for Queens, including reimagined routes, stops, and schedules to meet travel demands of existing riders, along with the goal of creating a fast and reliable network for those who would like to rely on our bus network. So a quick recap of the project. In 2019, we launched the Queens redesign. Then we released the existing conditions report that presented a detailed analysis of Queens demographics, land use, bus service, market trends, and customer feedback that would help inform the development of this redesign project. At the end of 2019, we released our original draft plan. So that's this over here. And in the first few months of 2020, we held public outreach events throughout Queens and saw unprecedented levels of attendance and feedback. Beginning in March 2020, there was an 18-month public pause of the project due to COVID-19. However, we were very busy behind the scenes and used this opportunity to do an in-depth review of all the customer feedback we received. This feedback helped us develop this new draft plan. On March 29th, 2022, we released the new draft plan and restarted our public outreach efforts. So we're in this phase right now, and then we're going into public outreach. Once we have finished our outreach and analyzed all public feedback, we released a proposed final plan. We will release a proposed final plan, which will be followed by more public outreach and a public hearing, and finally a vote by MTA's Board of Directors. So why a new draft plan? In early 2020, we completed dozens of public outreach events, including workshops, community board presentations, elected official briefings, and presentations to other stakeholders. We marketed the plan through various means, from handing out brochures to customers on the street to displaying updates on our digital screens throughout the system. The results of these efforts, we received over 11,000 comments in just 3 months. This customer feedback was crucial to the development of the new draft plan. We have addressed many of our customer concerns as possible, focusing on customer priorities while balancing trade-offs and using the new network redesign strategies to achieve those priorities. So why redesign the Queens bus network? New York City has experienced a huge amount of growth and change, but the bus network has not kept up with the evolving needs of our customers. Many bus routes continue to follow old trolley lines and offer inefficient or redundant service. As Queens has grown, congestion has worsened, creating slower bus speeds and decreased service reliability, resulting in declining ridership. So how are we redesigning the bus network? This brings us to the goals and priorities of the Queens redesign project. During public outreach, we asked our customers what they would prioritize to make a better bus network. The responses were not surprising. Our customers want reliable service, faster travel, better connections, ease of use. So reliable service, they want the bus to show up when it's supposed to. Faster travel, they want to spend less time waiting for the bus, and once on the bus, want to get to their destinations faster. For better connections, they want better connections and expanded access within Queens and to other boroughs. And then for ease of use, our customers want a system that's easy to use and understand. So how are we redesigning the bus network? So the redesign strategies that we focused on throughout this project. And so these are the strategies we've used to achieve customer goals. So first is simplifying the network, which means improving the network with routes that are easy to understand with more direct travel paths, which speed up buses and take the burden off our customers to memorize multiple route variations. Our customers want to get where they're trying to go quickly and reliably, and the route types in the Queens new draft plan aim to do that. The next one is enhancing connectivity. And this is met with a better grid network, providing new connections to key destinations and makes accessing those connections easier for our customers. This also includes prioritizing connections to accessible subway stations and Long Island Railroad stations. In Queens, most of the common connection requests the MTA receives is for improved interborough connections, so between Queens and Bronx, Queens and Manhattan, as well as Queens and Brooklyn. We're proposing 19 interborough local routes to improve travel between Queens and Brooklyn, Manhattan, and the Bronx. The next one is improving frequency. So the Queens relationship with the MTA's bus network is one that is unique. And reliance on the bus network can really only happen if there's an all-day frequent network that customers can rely on. A tenet of this new draft plan is creating that all-day frequent network. The new draft plan proposes improving frequency on routes on key corridors to about 10 minutes or better. Next is balancing bus stops. So one of the tools in our toolbox is to evaluate bus stop spacing, taking into account the time spent at each stop and the operational challenges of maneuvering a bus in and out of traffic. So this balance is where customer needs are the highest, and it's what informs rebalancing of bus stops. Expanded bus priority with New York City Department of Transportation. So the more congestion increases, the more it impacts customers' ability to rely on the bus. So we're continuing to work closely with New York City DOT to apply bus priority improvements on targeted corridors, which is shown within our new draft plan. And this will maximize the use of the resources that we currently have. So how are we planning to simplify the network? And what does it look like? In this example, the Q23 route has fewer turns and diversions than the existing route. So the black dotted line shows the areas that are discontinued. And then you can see that there are some new segments based off the lighter red color that we've tried to straighten out the route so it's a little bit more simple and easier for customers to understand. So simplifying the network means less redundant service so that customers know exactly which route to take without having to look at a destination sign on a bus. An example is the Q46 has both a local and limited stop version. The proposed Q23, which is shown on the map, serves a section of the existing Q46, and would only have one service type, which is limited. Creating routes with one specific purpose allows customers to know exactly what type of service to expect. So we provided some example customer commutes to show how the new draft plan makes customer commutes better. So this is a mock customer commute, and this shows how these types of trips would directly benefit from a few of the proposals within the new draft plan. Carolina, who lives in East Elmhurst near 108th Street and Northern Boulevard, has regular physical therapy appointments near the Kew Gardens subway station. The 4-mile trip is complicated and time-consuming. She walks several blocks west of 108th Street to catch the Q23, and the Q23 makes several turns on local streets before returning to 108th Street, the street she lives on. A transfer to the Q60 in Forest Hills is then needed for her to get to Kew Gardens. The trip takes almost an hour. The newly proposed Q23 limited route serves the entire length of 108th Street, making trips like Carolina's faster, simpler, and more frequent. And it also makes better north-south connections. This also allows her to have an anticipated travel time reduction of about 25 minutes. So the next slide talks about enhancing connectivity. The need to improve connections was something we regularly heard. The need to improve connections was something we regularly heard from customers. The map on the right shows the newly proposed Q51, which is a route that goes from Cambria Heights to Brooklyn near the Gateway Center Mall. Bus service along this section of Linden Boulevard doesn't currently exist, and there's no easy way to travel east or west on the bus in Southeast Queens without going into Jamaica first, which is not ideal for our customers. This new route fills that gap of the network and strengthens the bus network grid, creating new connections to dozens of other bus routes and enhancing the reach of our bus network. This new type of route also creates new opportunities and saves travel time. This is really a great example of how creating new Interboro routes can strengthen our Queens bus network as well as our Brooklyn bus network. So another example here is a customer commute, similar to the one we had before. And this shows an example of how the Q51 improves connectivity. Jared, who lives near the corner of Guy Brewer Boulevard and Linden Boulevard, got a new job at the Gateway Center Mall in East New York. His 6.5-mile commute takes 1 hour and 13 minutes by 2 bus routes, with a required trip north into downtown Jamaica to transfer. The newly proposed Q51 route on Linden Boulevard would be a direct east-west connection, taking him directly to Gateway Center Mall, and would save him up to about 25 minutes, avoiding the need to transfer up to Jamaica for his trip. So how are we improving frequency? So in this draft plan, all-day frequency means operating at least 10 minutes or better on weekdays from about 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. This means customers can walk out the door and know that their bus is coming in at least 10 minutes without having to look at a schedule. This frees up and creates a more accessible network for our customers. So the map on the right shows our all-day frequent network. You'll see that the red routes are the limited routes, and then the blue routes are the select bus or the crosstown routes. And these routes would operate the all-day frequent network, all-day frequent service, which is about 10 minutes or better. So bus stop balancing, which is a very important part of our plan. New York City has the shortest distance between bus stops of any major city, with an average of about 800 feet. Right-sizing bus stop spacing by the route type helps speed up buses, improves reliability and travel times for our bus riders. Each stop takes about 20 seconds, sometimes more during peak hours. And over a course of a whole route, that 20 seconds per stop really adds up. For each stop, our operators have to navigate pulling in and out of traffic to access the curb, which can be operationally difficult depending on the time of day or location. All of this impacts our on-time reliability and performance for our customers. So basically, we're proposing to increase the stop spacing on the local routes, so that's these here in green, to about 1,200 feet, which is more in line with our peer agencies' global standards, and it's also similar to the stop spacing for the Bronx Bus Network Redesign Plan. The table on the left shows how our proposed stop spacing compares to each route type compared to the existing network. So on the left shows our average existing stop spacing for each route type, and then on the right shows the proposed stop spacing for each route type in the new draft plan. We've used several criteria to evaluate bus stop proposals, such as ridership, stops with key destinations, and stops that serve major destinations or important community facilities. We've also focused on key connections to accessible subway stations. And from here, I'll pass it on to Nikhil.
Yep. So here's an example of how bus stop balancing on the proposed Q84 could improve travel times and reliability. So Sophia, who lives near 120th Avenue in Cambria Heights, currently needs to ride the Q84 bus to the subway to commute to Midtown Manhattan. Her commute takes around 90 minutes one way, 30 minutes of which is on the bus. and she often experiences buses bunching together, one after the other. With bus stop balancing and the proposed Q84 rush route, Sophia could save roughly 9 minutes on her one-way commute and could expect her bus to arrive at more regular intervals as well. So round trip, this could give Sophia around 18 extra minutes in her day, which could give her more time to stop for coffee, drop the kids up at school, sleep later, etc. So we are working with our partners at NYC DOT to expand bus priority throughout the borough. So this could include busways, bus lanes, queue jumps, and other street treatments to speed up service. The DOT has identified 49 corridors to be studied further. So the 24 corridors in blue are the primary corridors, along with the focus areas of Flushing and downtown Flushing and downtown Jamaica. And then there are 25 secondary corridors in dark gray. The yellow corridors are upcoming DOT bus priority projects. All right, so key takeaways from our outreach efforts. So as previously mentioned, we analyzed and summarized the over 11,000 comments that we received and summarized them into key takeaways. So we found that customer comments centered around 6 main issues. So I'll go over those and how we address them. So the first of these was proposed routing changes. So we saw a lot of concerns around proposed route realignments, shortenings, and extensions. So in response, we proposed new route alternatives to all of the major routing concerns that came up in the original draft plan. The most frequently mentioned routes that we heard were the Q49, Q53, Q32, Q66, and Q33. So we made sure to address these concerns in the new draft plan, especially for these routes. There was also a lot of difficulty that customers experience understanding the routes due to the use of the newly introduced QT and QMT labels. So in response, we have removed these temporary labels. So most routes in the new draft plan maintain the same route number that they have today. The next area of concern was about connectivity issues, where customers were concerned about the loss of connections to major subway stations and other key destinations, including ADA accessible subway stations. So in response, we've maintained key connections, as well as proposed additional key connections to subway stations, LIRR stations, and major destinations, including ADA accessible stations. We've also included proposals for 19 interborough routes to strengthen connections between Queens and Manhattan, the Bronx, and Brooklyn. And we've proposed new service to fill gaps in the bus network and further improving accessibility of the network for all of our customers. The next areas of concern included proposed bus stop and schedule changes. In the original draft plan, generalized bus stop locations were used instead of providing specific locations. And then additionally, the way that frequency and span information was presented led to confusion. So in the new draft plan, we've included detailed bus stop locations and specific frequencies and time spans so that people can more easily navigate and understand the routes and stops that they're most interested in. There are also concerns with operational issues, particularly with proposals to operate on problematic streets. So we have reviewed the streets and the proposals that in order to avoid routing on narrow or questionable streets. So introducing the new bus network. So I'd like to introduce the new network at a borough level. On the right, you can see our new map of our proposed Queens bus network. Proposals in the new draft plan are centered around the 4 priorities we identified from customers. So reliable service, faster travel, better connections, and ease of use. And with all the information that we heard from the last round of outreach, we've used this to address customer needs and concerns, along with working towards the 4 priorities that we've identified. So for an overview of the proposed local network changes, so while we're still proposing significant changes overall, this new version of the draft plan of the bus network and this new draft plan will look much more familiar to the public than the previous iteration. So we have 85 total proposed local bus routes. So there are changes proposed on the majority of routes, including extensions, shortenings, route alignment changes, and the combination of existing routes. And then almost every route has proposed bus stop changes as well. There's only one route, which would be the Q70 that had no routing or stop changes. You'll also notice you'll also notice that we've introduced some new route labels. So for example, the Q51, and we've also retired some route labels such as the Q103. So it's just important to note that this does not mean that routes have been completely discontinued. It just means that they might have a different route label and might look a little different than they do today. But for the most part, we've maintained service on all of the corridors that were served in the previous network. In addition to routing changes, we're also proposing frequency changes across the bus network. So some of these frequency changes are proposed to complement the routing changes as well. Others are proposed to create a better all-day frequent grid network that gives customers more freedom to travel across the borough without having to look at a schedule. And then additionally, the 4 different proposed route types that I'll go over in the next slide make it easier for customers to understand how frequent their routes will be based on their color. So introducing the 4 new route types for the local network. So 3 of these route types already exist today. So that would be the local routes, the limited routes, and the SBS crosstown routes. And then we're introducing the new rush purple routes as a new route designation. So local routes would connect local neighborhoods with an average stop spacing between 1/5 and 1/4 of a mile, and with varying frequencies depending on customer demand. Limited routes are in red, and these would serve high demand corridors with frequent service all day. The SBS or crosstown routes connect key destinations across longer distances with larger stop spacings and all day frequent service. And then our new rush route designation, which are shown in purple, will connect customers in the outer neighborhoods of Queens to the subway faster. So these routes will have local bus stop spacing in the outer parts of the boroughs and then provide rush service, only stopping at major transfer points or destinations on its way to the subway, where the majority of customers are going. So most of the proposed rush routes are in Southeast and Northeast Queens, where there is no subway service other than in Jamaica or Flushing. And then this is the proposed express bus network, the map for which you can see on the right. The express bus network will look fairly similar to the existing network with some minor route changes. Namely, we have one new route, the QM65, which we proposed, and one discontinued route, the QM3, as well as a few consolidations and other minor changes to routes. We're also proposing frequency and service band changes to express routes. So while some express routes operate near capacity on some trips, many trips are underutilized, especially during the weekday, middays, and on weekends. So for this reason, we're proposing to reduce service where ridership is the lowest and maintain and reallocate service where it's most needed. Right, so now I'm just going to go over how to read our route profile. So for every route in the plan, we've included a route profile that kind of gives a summary of the changes we made to the route and also shows the map for the route and shows a visual representation of any changes that we've made. So on the left side is the first page of the route profiles. So at the top, you'll see the route name. So here we have the Q25 and the descriptor. So Merrick Boulevard, Parsons Boulevard, Crescenta Boulevard. And then underneath that, you'll note the associated existing routes. So that will allow customers to match the newly proposed routes with the current routes that they're familiar with. On the left side, we have the route direction, so showing the terminuses of the route, as well as various characteristics such as the length, stop spacing, and then proposed connections to buses as well as trains. And then in the body of the page, we have the route summary, which goes over the major changes we've made to the route and the reasoning for that. And then on the right side is a brief summary of the main improvements we've made to the route. And then at the bottom, we have the proposed frequency and span table, which shows both the existing and the proposed frequencies and spans of service for weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, so that people can easily see how these routes are being changed. And then on the right side is the second page of the route profiles that shows the route maps. So this will show the existing, proposed, and discontinued portions of the routes, along with what routes will provide service for the discontinued portions noted in call-out bubbles. So now I'll pass it on to Lucille to wrap up the presentation.
So thank you so much, Nikhil. So Interboro Express. So we know that this is a very exciting new project that Governor Hochul has proposed for parts of Queens and Southern Brooklyn. So MTA team is currently preparing a feasibility study for the IBX. And so while we don't quite yet know what the transit mode will be or the potential station locations, the IBX team will be working with the Queens Bus Network redesign team to potentially connect IBX with a dozen or more Queens bus routes. We want to try to provide new north-south connections in parts of Queens that mainly have mostly east-west bus routes. And additionally, providing more opportunities for interborough commuting to Southern Brooklyn, which our current Queens Brooklyn interborough bus routes don't serve. The IBX team will be beginning their environmental review process in early 2023, and they will be engaging communities throughout that process. Next slide. So how to provide feedback. So our customers can provide feedback through a variety of different ways. We have some of them listed here. So at one of our 14 virtual public workshops, which we have the full schedule for, the next slide, through Remix, which is a web-based interactive map that we utilized the last time. So our customers can view all of the proposed routes. You can overlay our new proposals with the existing bus route, and then you can look at the stops in detail. So you can go in at a particular bus stop and you can put in your comments. And then obviously through our comment portal on the Queens Bus Network redesign microsite. But additionally, folks can use any of our standard methods of getting in touch with the MTA. So that could be by 511, that could be calling our customer service center. Additionally, we will take comments if folks are sending their comments to their elected officials or to other community stakeholders that they engage with. As I alluded to in the beginning, this is going to be an ongoing process of collecting feedback, and we want to try and meet folks where they're at. And so specifically around the stop list, which as Nikhil talked about, we're providing a full stop list for each of these new proposed routes this go round. So we ask folks to really go through and take a look at the stop list. You will see on the list that we provide for each of the bus routes, stops that we're proposing to keep, and then stops that we are proposing to rebalance. And so it's really important for us as you all and your constituents and the folks in your community really understand at the local level what's happening at a stop. It's really important for us to get that type of feedback. So even most recently at a stakeholder briefing, Ms. Reddick pointed out that one of the stops that we were removing was in front of a church in Southeast Queens. And so our folks went back to take a look at that. So that's the level of information that we need to have. Obviously, we look at a variety of information, but we really are relying on our customers and community members to really give us the nitty-gritty of what's happening on their local streets. Next slide. So here are a list of our 14 virtual workshops. So we will be meeting again starting April 18th through June the 2nd. I want to note that although these are virtual workshops, folks can call by dial-in. Even if they don't have internet access, folks can still participate in this process. I also want to note that we have been working with the city's Department for Aging to get the plan and to discuss the plan with senior centers around Queens. And in addition to these virtual workshops, again, we are constantly talking with folks about these different route proposals, and there will be a variety of different ways that people can get in touch with us. As I talked about at the beginning, we made sure that these meetings do not conflict with your full board or with your scheduled, if you have a scheduled transportation committee meeting, because we really wanted to ensure that community boards had a voice in these upcoming sessions. Additionally, if you're not able to make the session for your particular neighborhood, people can come to any of these workshops and will be able to talk with an MTA Queens Bus Network team member to talk about their commute. Next slide. So additionally, actually starting this Thursday, we will be beginning our on-street outreach and engagement locations. So we have chosen high ridership bus stops and locations around Queens to pass out information about the project. And to really encourage people to participate in our outreach and to participate in giving us feedback for our proposals. Next slide. So we want to thank you. We know that this was a little bit of a lengthy presentation. If we were doing an actual public workshop, we would now transition into going over the routes of concern for each of those particular geographical areas. But since we don't have the time to do that today, we will just say, please read the plan. We will again have ample opportunity to talk with you and with your members. And we really just thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present to you today. So thank you. And we're here to answer questions.
Thank you, Lucille. And I'll start with Florence. And I love the picture that's ending here, because that was my bus route from Jamaica all the way home. Hour and a half ride. So it brings back a lot of old memories. Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to go to Florence first for questions.
Good morning, Mr. Borough President. Thank you for having this presentation today. I attended one of their earlier presentations. I think it was about a week ago. Community boards have the smallest budget of most New York City agencies, and it behooves you not to do better outreach. My meeting is the first meeting, and people think that my office is doing a town hall, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And people are very concerned about a lot of the changes. One of the changes was impacting a school. I have the biggest NYCHA development probably in the nation in my district. My area is a transit desert. And you were talking about ending that bus at 1 o'clock. I'm not going to belabor this with my problems, but for all 14 of us, you should really be doing a better job at outreach. One of the biggest committee meetings I have ever been in was in 2019, when you did the first layout of the plan, and people, as you know, were highly discouraged and upset. And a lot of people have felt that because of the pandemic, a lot of things have been swept through without thorough consultation. I think that we have a massive senior population, the biggest senior population ever to be on the face of the earth. And we are reducing bus stops where people can't walk easily, they're disabled, and we're taking away bus stops for a 2-second where you may be picking up 4 people at that bus stop. I don't think that this has been vetted through the community. My district has over 250,000 people, and you've only had 11,000 comments. That's one district. You're talking to 14 district managers. So I highly encourage you to reach out to local newspapers, do inserts, do mailings to homes. If you go through the post office, it's not expensive. I don't think that you're doing your due diligence. New York 1 has nothing. Channel 7 calendar has nothing. These are free of charge, free. I shouldn't have to mention this to you. You should know this. There should be coverage on this. This is going to be a massive change for students, for seniors, for a lot of people. We need you to do your due diligence to help us. We can't be expected to do this. It's unfair.
All right. So one of the things I would suggest also is on stops, especially that are going to impact seniors, that you give those specifics. And Kat Z Zapata will introduce herself soon, and she's doing a lot of work in the office. So if there are any issues pertaining to certain stops that are really going to be problematic, we need to also know, so we can go back to the MTA to advocate as well. And I do agree with you on the just making sure we're not solely relying on social media, but really trying to tap into the local newspapers, the New York 1, which is on repeat in most people's homes in the morning. So just making sure we're and using indigenous news media as well. Diversity, and making the diverse borough we represent. We want to make sure that even down to local papers, not in English, that we're also being responsive from a linguistic standpoint. So just wanted to throw that out there. Lucille, I don't know if you want to respond as well.
Borough President, is it okay if I respond?
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for that, Florence. So in terms of engaging with community, so I mentioned Department for Aging, but we've also reached out to the CECs to get them information. Our press team has also reached out to New York 1. I mean, we had a New York 1 package on the day that this was released, as well as other local papers. I've seen this in the Patch, I've seen this in the Chronicle, as well as the Ledger, just to name a few of the local Queens papers. But I appreciate your feedback in terms of other outlets that we can be engaging with. But again, these are proposals. And I want to stress that even when we came the first go round, those were proposals. And so, part of when you have a proposal, you bring it to people because you are asking and soliciting for feedback. Nothing has been set in stone. And again, we're going to keep repeating that. Nothing is set in stone here. And I think if folks have the opportunity to read through the plan and see the changes that we made from our first draft that we put out back in 2020, folks will see that we did listen. And those 11,000 comments, which, frankly, is the most comments that MTA has ever received for any of our projects, really did help to center how we looked at going about this new draft plan. So, this is very much a customer-centered new draft plan that really takes into account the folks that are riding on these buses every single day. So we want your feedback and we encourage it. And I thank you for giving us some additional places to reach out to.
All right, do we have any other questions from any district managers? Or you're all happy with the plan? Or waiting to go to the workshops? All right, Kat, I'm going to just have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Kat Zapata, and I am the Transportation and Parks Liaison to the Queensboro President's Office. I will put my office number and my email please always feel free to reach out to me. Always available to you all. I also oversee CB1 and CB5 in regards to community boards for the Queensborough President's Office. So excited to work with you all.
Thank you, Kat, and just want to thank MTA once again. I just had one question, and I didn't want to really get too specific today. So in light of all of the work happening at JFK, I know Mark and I and many of us have advocated for the 77 extension. So just wanted to hear on the record where we headed with that.
So we will get back to you on that. I don't have anything specifically to share around that, but specifically, you know, this go round, what we've been hearing is the desire for a one-seat ride to JFK. And we've been hearing that from multiple elected officials. So that is definitely something that we are taking in along with all the other feedback that we've been receiving to evaluate.
Okay, great. To continuing to work on that. Right, seeing no other questions, comments, or concerns. This is, wow, shocked. I want to thank you all for coming. We look forward to getting through these workshops. And if there are any suggestions, once again, Lucille has been great, Danny's been great, the staff has been great, but also don't forget to reach out to Kat as well in terms of making sure we're aware of what the needs are, where the gaps are, so we can advocate as well. So thank you all for attending, and now we're going to move on to the last presenter. For our second presentation today, we'll receive a presentation from Livon, New York. Livon, New York has a mission to save lives, provide comfort, and strengthen legacies through organ, eye, and tissue donation. Today's presentation will focus on what Livon, New York does, how the organ donation process works, and clarifying organ donation myths. This morning, we are pleased to be joined by Raida Hussain, who is the Community and Government Affairs Liaison for Livon, New York. Raida is a lifelong, I hope I'm saying that right, Raida, or she'll correct me, is a lifelong Queens resident and has 8 years of experience in Queens, federal and state offices. We welcome you, and I just want to say I had a family member who needed a transplant and was able to get one. I mean, it took him many years to finally get one, but I, just want to stress the importance of having, these sort of programs and promoting them because it really did save his life. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you for the introduction, and I'm glad your family member was able to get the transplant that he needed. So yes, I am the Queens Community and Government Affairs Liaison. I do see a few familiar faces. I have been doing this presentation to various community boards. So for the ones who've seen my presentations, this will be a bit familiar. But let me just get started. I will start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen okay? All right, thank you. So at Livon, New York, we care for New Yorkers through organ donation. More specifically, our mission is to save lives, provide comfort, and strengthen legacies through organ, eye, and tissue donation. We do this by working with multiple partners. This includes local hospitals and transplant centers, and going out into the community to educate others about the power of donation. We also care for the families of organ donors who have selflessly given the gift of life, as well as advocating on behalf of those who are waiting for a transplant. You may have heard of us in the news recently through the passings of Officer Wilbert Morrow and firefighter Jesse Gerhard. Livon, New York was working with the families of Officer Morrow and firefighter Gerhard, and with the NYPD and FDNY respectively, to facilitate organ and tissue donation. So even through their tragic passings, they were still able to save lives through donation. All right, this is our designated service area. It includes the greater metropolitan New York area. You see that it has all 5 boroughs, Nassau and Suffolk, Hudson Valley. So this DSA includes the 13 million New Yorkers, and we work with more than 100 hospitals and 11 transplant centers in this DSA. So some numbers on, some numbers on what we do. We've transplanted more than 27,000 life-saving organs, and we've improved more than 594,000 lives through tissue donation. 6.5 million people in New York State are registered as organ and tissue donors. The need for action is urgent. Only 43% of New Yorkers are registered organ donors. And so this low registration rate has led to an organ shortage. Due to the shortage, New Yorkers who need transplants wait longer. For example, the wait in the United States in general for a kidney is typically 2 to 3 years, but in New York, that wait can be 5 to 7 years. So because of this shortage, tragically, a New Yorker on the waiting list dies each day. So there are more than 9,000 New Yorkers who are waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. And of those 9,000, 8,000 of them live in our designated service area. This slide has a breakdown by organ, which is needed. Kidney is the #1 need. One thing that I like about this slide is that Lauren here, who is referred to as a heart recipient, was previously referred to in our promotional materials as Lauren, a mother in need of a heart. So this is a tangible example of the impact that we have on the people who urgently need these life-saving transplants. One organ donor can save up to 8 lives through the donation of vital organs such as heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, intestine, and pancreas. They can improve up to 75 lives through tissue donation. That number used to be 50, but it's been enhanced to 75. And so, for example, cornea donation can be used to assist those with degenerative ocular disease. Tendons, athletes are always damaging their ACLs, they need tendon grafts. Heart valves, veins, skin grafts can be used to help burn victims, as well as those who are receiving reconstructive breast surgery after mastectomies, and bones can be donated as well. Clarifying organ donation myths. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. There are a lot of urban legends concerning organ donation. The myth, doctors won't try as hard to save me. I feel like this is the #1. This is the reason why people don't want to have a little heart on their driver's license. The truth is that everybody at the hospital, doctors, nurses, EMT workers, they are trained, focused, and legally obligated to save lives. The doctors who treat patients are not affiliated with organ, eye, and tissue donation. Those are 2 separate teams. They're not going to be looking at your driver's license when they're operating on you. They're just going to be, doing whatever they can to save your life. The myth: I'm too old. I'm too sick to be an organ donor. There's no age limit for organ, eye, and tissue donation. And in fact, the oldest donor on record in New York State was 93 years old. Anyone and everyone can sign up to be a registered organ, eye, and tissue donor. Medical history is reviewed at the time of donation to determine a match. The myth: I will be able to have a normal funeral. The truth is that organ, eye, and tissue recovery are very serious surgical procedures. They're done with the utmost care and respect. Open casket viewing is still possible after donation has occurred. And Livon, New York does work with families' timeframes for burial. The myth: organ donation is against my religion. The truth is that many major religions celebrate organ donation as a way to save lives, including Buddhism, Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Organ donation is often seen as a final act of generosity and kindness. However, we do encourage people who are concerned to speak with their trusted religious leader. And specifically, I want to talk about Donate Life Month. Donate Life Month is the national initiative to support the cause of organ donation. It's organized by Donate Life America. And so every organ procurement organization in the country is celebrating Donate Life Month. What we do is we highlight the need of organ donation, we dispel myths, and we share stories of both the donors who have selflessly given the gift of life and of the recipients. And so speaking specifically about what Livon New York has done, as you know, the past 2 years have been pretty crazy. This pandemic, the lockdown has posed many challenges, but even with these challenges, Livon New York was still able to have a record-breaking year in 2021. We transplanted more than 1,000 organs, and that was through the work of our partnerships with the hospitals and the transplant centers and our community partners. This year's Donate Life Month theme is Be a Donor, because just as bees play a vital role in sustaining life, our organization and the organ transplant system in general plays a vital role in the healthcare system and making sure that people get these life-saving procedures done. Do you have any questions for me, any concerns or? No questions at all? Hi, Florence.
Hi, can we please have this PowerPoint sent to our office so we can share it with our board members?
Sure, I'll be able to do that.
Is there any problem with us putting this PowerPoint on social media? Is there a way you can send it in a method we could post it on social media? Is that acceptable?
That I will have to ask about, just about posting on social media. I can send you a copy of the PowerPoint, but I'll need to make sure that it's cleared for posting on your social media.
Or if it's not given to us in a vehicle that can be posted on social media, could you give us some kind of what do they call it, a PDA or whatever they call it, in a JPEG form that we could use?
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure. I just need to see like what is the best way to transmit this information. Can I have your email address?
Sure. I would send it to all the district managers on my personal.
I would suggest putting it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I would send it to everybody.
Yeah. Gary, and we can do that too, staff. We should make sure we float both all of the dates, the MTA hearings, and then this presentation to all the DMs. All right, Gary. You're muted.
Hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you for the life-saving work you're doing. Now, if we have the heart on our license, which means we made that selection that we would be an organ donor, how does that fit in with your organization?
So our organization is contacted whenever the hospitals feel that it's possible for a donation to be made. I have more material that I can share afterwards via email, but the main way that a person become a candidate for donation for this deceased donation is that the person had to have passed away on a ventilator at a hospital. And the reason why they need to have passed away in that specific manner is to make sure that blood is circulating. People seem to feel that, oh, if you sign up as an organ donor, then if you pass away, if you die in any kind of manner, then your organs can be recovered and then donated. And that's not the case. You really need to have passed away in this specific manner because of the way that the necessity of making sure that there's still blood flowing to the organs and that they're getting the oxygen that they need. Otherwise, the organs start to break down and they're not in a condition that's appropriate for recovery and for transplant. So Livon, New York, the hospitals in our region, they call us if they see that this is a viable possibility. And then what happens is that we do have a team who speaks with the family. And if you had signed up to be a donor, then your organs are, you are viewed as a viable candidate. And again, I do want to emphasize, they don't let you die in the operating room. That's not how it works. It's just, in the event that if you do sign up, then, there is a possibility that is broached, the idea of having your organs recovered. And, or a family member can make that authorization on your behalf, a partner or any other family member if they're approached to discuss this. But we coordinate with the hospitals. We have staff who are surgical specialists, and we have social workers who discuss with the family. In the specific case of Officer Moore's passing and how he was able to donate 5 organs, he was taken to NYU Langone. We have a relationship with them, so we do have the relationship with the hospitals, and we do facilitate this process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Marilyn McAndrew, I see that you have a question.
Marilyn, unmute yourself.
Hi, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. It's a wonderful job that you do. And trust me, I was chairman of the Lions Eye Bank out in Long Island. Okay, and I've also met with the predecessor over at New York Organ Donor Network, Lorraine Berg. We worked together. I myself am a donor wife, mother, sister, brother, and donated my husband's tissues, organs, and unbelievable things can happen. Here you have vision that went to 2 different people, and I questioned it because I've never done any of this before. And I was extremely adamant at the very beginning when I they wanted to don't ask me for a donation for my mom. I said, what are you, crazy? All you want to do is pull them apart. This is the mental attitude, until my husband set me down and I said, knowing he was dying, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? First, the first thing I want you to do is donate my tissues and organs. And I said, but why? And he said, Marilyn, if I can give somebody else life or enhance somebody else's life, it's a wonderful thing. So his eyes were donated to 2 people, one in the States here, someone else in France. His bones, I want you to know, were given to over 210 people. I even called the bone bank in Florida.
Wow.
And I said, is this here a mistake, a typo? And they said, no, they grind the bones down and they use it for reconstructive surgery for both seniors as well as children, if they have a jaw or something with their teeth or whatever. His skin went to 7 burn victims at New York Hospital. I mean, it's amazing. He says, why leave my bones to the bugs and the maggots when I can give that to somebody else? And so when I was first told by the iBank to do a presentation, of course, you're in a veil of tears because you're talking about your husband. But as time went on, and I became a speaker, I spoke in St. Patrick's Cathedral for 4 years in a row. And I've done this. I became a member of Transplant, Manhattan Trio, transplant recipients. I had to know what a recipient felt like in receiving someone's loved ones. And believe it or not, you actually become families, you know, of knowing someone who is walking around with your husband's heart, or someone who's able to see through a lens of a camera like my husband did. And it was a 360-degree turn for me that I ended up doing public speaking on tissue and organ donation. So if any community board wants me to speak, I'll be more than happy to, because, you know, it's a wonderful thing. And as she said, all religions do. And I have documentation, and I still have my folder that I did all my presentations with. So is anyone truly interested, I'd be more than happy to do a presentation for you. I thank you. And again, the wonderful work you do. The last person I was working with was Ms. Rivera. So you're doing a great job, and reaching out is most important. I still do it. Can't get a few family members to do it, but you know, you reach out. It's a wonderful thing, and it's a knowing that your loved one is still living on in somebody else. It's a good feeling. Thank you for what you do.
And thank you so much for sharing your story, and your husband was able to generously give the gift of life. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Marie.
I just wanted to thank Marilyn so much for saying this to us. I became an organ donor not too long ago, and she really made me feel really good about what I've done. Not yet, you know, but thank you so much, Marilyn, because even though I did it, I had, you know, a few feeling a little bit not so sure about it, even though I've done it. But I really thank you for speaking, and I'm going to encourage others to sign up.
It comes from the heart, and it's true. My husband's still living. He's on this earth in somebody. So, and I'm glad to share that.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, it appears not. You know, thank you. You've been a very great audience, and I am going to share the, I'm going to email the presentation so you can have it for reference.
All righty. Well, thank you all for attending today's Borough Cabinet. Look forward to seeing you next month and along the journey. And just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Any last comments, questions, or concerns for us while we're on? Can't wait to see you all in person eventually. Any announcements any folks want to make on anything?
President, if you could
Yes.
push MTA to link the Metro card and the Omni card to the ferry, that would be greatly appreciated. It's time that we start opening up this conversation and making it available to our residents in New York.
Yes, ma'am. And I know I think we authored an op-ed on more ferries for Queens that should be hitting today or tomorrow. And we have actually raised this with MTA already. So we will continue to keep pushing in on this. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none, be safe, and we'll see you next month.